Just like to call on John Cussen to say, to give you a bit of background on the late Barry McEnery.
Thank you, Pat. Mr. Minister, Deputy Jonathan, Councillor Collins, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased to have been asked to speak about Barry and Kitty McEnery this evening for the official opening of the McEnery restaurant here behind us. I think it's very fitting that Barry and Kitty are remembered, and of course I think that everybody remembers them personally, but of course there are a lot of people in the room who wouldn't remember them personally, because though I think that they're only dead for a few years, and unfortunately they're dead for quite a considerable number of years, but they were such a part of the club. I became the club in the 1950s, and they were just rock solid, running the show, really, you know. And in fact, the basic statistics of their involvement in the Newcastle West Golf Club, in the old golf club in Cullean, are really quite amazing. Barry was the founder member, and in the inaugural meeting seconded the founding of the golf club. And as Pat said, Kitty was there also with the ladies in the background. I don't know how official that was. The ladies club started in 1940. Barry McEnery was the first secretary of the golf club, the position he held from 1939 to 1964, a period of 25 years. He and Kitty were both captains in 1948. Kitty was Hans Secretary of the ladies section of the golf club and treasurer from 1940 to 1984. 44 remarkable years. They were both presidents in 1965. Kitty was president from 63 to 65, Barry was president in 65, and at the annual general meeting in 1982, Barry was made an honorary life member of the club, one of the few people that have been made a life member of the club. And after his death in 1982, at the AGM in 1983, a resolution was passed that his name be perpetuated in some way. And a plaque to him was put up in the clubhouse in Cullean, and I'll talk about that plaque later. I'm delighted also this evening that there are members of the McCoy family here. Barry and Kitty were not blessed with children, but of course Kitty was one of the strong McCoy clan from Cullean, and I'm glad to Tom is here this evening, and Mary Therese is here this evening, and other members of the McCoy family. I think it's very special for them because they were very close to Barry and Kitty. Just to give you an outline of Barry's life, he was born in Patrick Street, Cork in 1904, but his father was one of the McEnerys of Camas, so really he was a West Limerick man. He was only camping out in Cork. So, having qualified in dairy science from UCC, he took up a job at Cantor Creameries in the late 1920s. And that was just going back to his roots in West Limerick, and he came to live in Newcastle West. He had been a member of Cork Constitution Rugby Club for some years, and he actually won a Munster Senior Cup medal with Cork Con in 1929. And I was in the Cork Con Pavilion there a couple of years ago, and his photograph was up on the wall, and I was delighted to point out to the members there that was Barry McEnery, who was such a well-known, famous man in Newcastle West. But Barry then, of course, will always be associated with Castlemahon Creamery, which he joined as a manager in 1930 after he'd been in Cantor for a few years. And he turned it into one of the most progressive creameries in the country, without doubt. He concentrated on poultry processing. There were no broilers in those days. And by the 1960s, it was one of the leaders in the country, with markets all over the country and even spreading to England. I was reading a note in a Castlemahon journal there where some man from Castlemahon was in England, he was in Birmingham, and he looked around and there he saw a Castlemahon van driving up the street, and he was just so proud and so amazed. Now, our own Timmy Geary, who I'm glad is here tonight, was Barry's assistant in Castlemahon, and when Barry retired in 1973, Timmy took over as manager of Castlemahon. And I was speaking to Timmy about Barry and trying to get some personal notes from him, and he had just such an admiration for Barry, he said he was such a straight, honest man, very good to his employees, a great community man, always out for the greater good, and I can certainly vouch for that myself. Now, my own memories of Barry growing up, when I started playing golf, was that he was a large, genial, kindly man, and obviously important and very much respected. In those days, the status of a creamery manager was extremely high. The big people in the community in the 30s, 40s and 50s were creamery managers, bank managers and parish priests. How different today? I don't know, has anyone in authority respected today? But anyway, that's another story. Now, Barry was a very keen golfer. He played all the time, but I'd have to say he wasn't a very good golfer. But he was though a large man, he was quite short off the tee. He didn't punch his weight, as they say. He didn't hit his weight, but a good man in a four-ball and a great enthusiast. Now, Barry and Kitty were a real couple. You couldn't think of them but being together. And they lived beside the golf club in Homeville, where Mary Trace is now living. The house is still there. And just on a personal note, or just to lighten things a bit, I remember after they retired, they were still involved, or Barry, or when retired officially, would say Barry was still involved in the golf club on committee level. And I remember in the 1970s, I was on the committee myself, and there was a committee meeting and it was running late, and everyone was kind of yawning and saying, God, this will be over soon, we'll be able to go home. And it came on to any other business. And Barry said, and Barry always had a slight Cork accent, if I can attempt to imitate him. I've just one thing to say, Barry said, and he took out his notebook and he thumbed over the pages and he said, Kitty asked me to mention that one night last week she was awake at about 3 o'clock in the morning. She looked out the window and she saw lights on in the golf club. And Barry said, does anyone know anything about this? Whoever was there must have had a key. So there was a deadly silence in the committee room. No one spoke, feet were shuffled, everyone knew that some committee members were wont to have a few late drinks in the clubhouse from time to time. Anyway, nothing was said, the moment passed, but we all knew that the eagle eye of Kitty spotted the light and the mysteries were exposed. Big sister was still watching us. So I mentioned the plaque that was put up in the clubhouse in Killearn to Barry, and this plaque is actually, it's kind of out the back here, down the stairs, so it's kind of been, it isn't in a prominent position anymore, it's kind of languishing down the back stairs. You have to kind of seek it out. But maybe it could be restored and put in a prominent position in the restaurant, now that it's been going to be called the McEnery restaurant. Now, when that plaque was unveiled in 1984 in the clubhouse, the actual writing on it, and I was involved in this myself actually, it says Barry McEnery, 1904 to 1982, founder member, honorary life member, past captain and president, secretary and trustee, erected by the members in recognition of his dedicated service, 1984. And I think that's certainly, it still stands and it's worth remembering. Now the last thing I'm going to say is that when the 50th anniversary booklet, A History of the Club, was brought out in 1988, there was a photograph of Barry and Kitty in it, and the caption read, their total involvement in the running of the golf club for many years can truly be called a labour of love. Thank you.